Welcome to Eat, Play, Live. I'm Sasha Anissa, and today we're going to go over a barbecue dish, which is very big in Texas, of course. We're going to do with salmon. And the best thing about making it healthier with salmon is we're going to make our own barbecue sauce. So we know exactly what goes into it. So first thing is we're going to start off by taking a plastic bag. And this plastic bag will be our best friend because it's going to make everything stay nice and clean. And our cleanup is going to be really easy. So first thing, we're going to add the salmon, beautiful salmon here, into the bag. And then we'll put the barbecue sauce step by step into this bag as well, so we don't waste any flavor at all. Put the salmon in there, and it's great to use tongs as well, because then you don't get your hands all fishy. Put that over here. I want to go in. And there's the salmon. Next thing is we're going to cut up some garlic to put into this pretty much barbecue sauce that we're going to make homemade, and we're going to make it healthy. The best thing is we get to know everything that goes into the barbecue sauce. A lot of barbecue sauces have a lot of sodium, a lot of other things that you don't want to be in there, high fructose corn syrup. So we are going to control what is in this sauce. First thing is we're going to chop up some garlic, nice and fine. This is going to give a lot of good flavor. I smell it already. Okay, now we're going to add that in to the bag. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a good amount of mustard. This makes the barbecue sauce amazing. It's wonderful to use a grainy mustard or flavorful mustard like this. That other yellow stuff that you get that normally goes on hot dogs, that's not going to be just as good as this grainy mustard. Put some lemon pepper in there. Definitely a good amount of ketchup. Well, that's what the body of this barbecue sauce is going to be. This ketchup, by the way, is gluten-free, low sodium, and ketchup can really sneak up on you because it has sugar, it has sodium, so it's good to really read the ingredients. Next ingredient is Bragg's amino acid. If you can't have soy sauce because of gluten allergy, you can definitely use Bragg's because it has no gluten in it. Of course, some salt and pepper. Bring a lot of flavor, that's always necessary. Remember, you have 4 fillets of salmon in there. Next is some beautiful paprika. And it's best to get smoked paprika, especially if you're doing a barbecue sauce, because it brings a lot of flavor even if you're not using barbecue. Next thing, some chili powder. So it brings a nice amount of heat. And some onion powder. And of course, some honey for sweetness. That's one of my favorite things about barbecue sauce, that sweetness on the end. Next thing is the fun part. You get to close this bag up. You want to take all the air out of it as much as possible. Close it on the top so that the salmon and the barbecue sauce doesn't go everywhere. And massage it. Make sure the barbecue sauce gets everywhere on the salmon. This is going to make it taste really good. Just give it a little massage. And then we're going to put that in the fridge to marinate. You can marinate for up to 2 hours. That would be great. Overnight is the best. While that's working, we can get started on the asparagus. And this is really simple because, open this. It's really simple. We just add some lemon pepper to this and some canola oil. We go straight to the stove. And one of my favorite things to do is to use one pan for everything. All the flavors are going to be on your same plate. Can't hurt. Add a little canola oil. Wait for that to heat up. sure it goes all the way around. That heats up pretty quickly. And then I'm going to add the asparagus with the lemon pepper. And really the main part about putting this in the pan is you just want to heat it up a little bit. Get it a little bit of a brighter green. Just getting it heated through is the main reason why we're putting this on here. And so it doesn't taste so raw. So let that go for a little bit. Just marry the flavors with the lemon pepper. And while that's working, we're going to get started on the onions. So we need to chop up some red onions so that we can make some red onions caramelized on top of this barbecue salmon. It's going to be really delicious. You can hear that asparagus in the back there. It's going to be very good. Peel this. From the asparagus. The great thing is with the lemon pepper seasoning for the asparagus is that you don't need anything else. It has a lot of seasonings in that one bottle. What you do need to be careful with is definitely reading what is in that lemon pepper mix that you get. A lot of times it'll have a lot of salt, so it's best to look for one without added salt. You just want to chop them into nice rings. This way they'll caramelize nice and evenly. And this is a fresh onion. I can tell. It's making me cry. Woo! Give it a little simmer for it. And the colors get much brighter when you just give it a little bit of heat. Give it a little bit longer and then I'll be ready. Woo! That onion is going to be giving me a run for my money. Finish up the next part. I'm going to put these off to the side. We're going to wait for that asparagus to get out of there so we can put these in. And sometimes I like to season, if I'm waiting on something else in the pan, it's fine to season it here then instead of in the pan. Just some salt and pepper. And now that brought out, you can smell the asparagus, and the color is much more vibrant. It's gorgeous. So, finish cutting these up. Make sure you get the edges. Can't hurt. And make sure you give this a little mix. So, the salt and pepper is on all of it. And we can take out the salmon. Now that's been marinating for a bit. And we're going to put that on the stove. I'm going to put a little bit more canola oil in the pan. And put on the heat. Make sure there's enough to go around the whole pan. And this, open the bag like that. And take it over to the pan. So now we're gonna let that salmon just cook up in here. You can smell the barbecue sauce. It's gonna be delicious. I put the extra sauce that we had in the Ziploc bag in here. I let it cook up so that we can use that as part of the flavoring for the caramelized onions. So we just want to get it on both sides, nice and cooked, and just leave it here. Don't want to bother it too much. You want to make sure the heat isn't too high because you don't want the barbecue sauce to burn. So now we're going to take off the salmon, so we don't want that to continue cooking. Looks beautiful. That here, ready with the asparagus. We want to add those onions immediately to that pan. It has a lot of the flavor from the salmon and the barbecue sauce. It's going to make these onions, when they're caramelized, have such a deep flavor. Add those onions, spin it around. Looking good. It already is giving the onions a color that is so beautiful. So now that these onions have caramelized up and they look gorgeous, you can smell that they're going to be sweet. We're going to try to plate this up really pretty. So first we're going to start with the caramelized onions. Just going to bring a lot of flavor to the dish. A little bit more. Be generous. I'm going to take some salmon. A nice piece of salmon. And place it here. And can even take another piece. And place it right there. And one of the best things that I learned in culinary school to make a plate look amazing is height. So that is where the difference is from a normal plate that you can make at home and what you get at the restaurant. As long as you learn that one little tip, you can really make something look very professional. And there it is. Some barbecue salmon with caramelized onions and asparagus. Now, the major difference between this and, let's say, maybe a pulled pork sandwich that you can get from Texas is the calories and the sodium and the saturated fat. So this dish that we made here was just 194 calories with 49 calories from fat. Now, if you were to get a pulled pork sandwich instead, that would be 1,705 calories just for one little sandwich and 977 calories from fat. It's because you don't know really what the barbecue sauce is or what meat is. So this way, make it at home. It was not hard at all. And just remember, healthy does not have to be boring. That's good. Here I am at Farm and Table, here in Albuquerque, one of the most beautiful restaurants around. They have a farm in their backyard that you can see from the table. Any produce that they don't get from their own farm, they get locally. Also, they make their own pastas and breads. They do whatever they can do from scratch. It's a gorgeous restaurant with beautiful food.
Hi, my name is Jay Wilkinson. I'm the executive chef of Farm and Table. Today we made a recipe. It was a chilled peach soup from Palisades, Colorado. That's where the peaches are from. We made it with local yellow onions and fresh cayenne peppers. The way we made the soup was first we washed all the peaches and we separated the peaches by firmness. 3/4 of the peaches went, the softer of the soft ones went to the actual puree soup, and 1/4 of them we were going to blanch and peel for the garnish, going to dice for a garnish. So first we washed all of our peaches, and then we small diced 2 onions and 3 fresh cayenne peppers into a nice little mince, and then we sweated the onion and the cayenne pepper together. Then we halved all the peaches and removed the pits of the larger portion that's going to go into the puree. We brought a pot of water to a boil and gave ourselves an ice bath, and the firmer peaches for the garnish, we wanted to peel those. So we dropped them a few at a time into the boiling water for about a minute, minute and a half until the skin starts to peel away, and then drop them into the ice bath. Then we peel them off with a paring knife or just your fingers, however it slips off, and those are all ready to go. After we sweated the onions and the chilies with a little bit of salt, they're just translucent. I just want to take the raw off. You don't want to cook them and caramelize them. You want it to be a real fresh tasting soup. We pureed the softer peaches with the onions and the cayenne peppers and a little bit of salt, and we use champagne vinegar today. You could also use lime juice, lemon juice, rice vinegar, mild acid just to bring out the brightness of the peaches. Pureed that, and we're going to let that sit and adjust for seasoning, a little bit of salt. We're going to garnish it with the fresh diced peaches from the peeled peaches, and probably finish it with just a little bit of creme fraiche or maybe just a few herbs. The philosophy of Farm and Table is a philosophy that I've been striving for my whole culinary career, and this is the place where I found it best in Albuquerque and I think in New Mexico, where we not only strive to give you delicious, amazing, wonderful food, but all that food is not only comes from the community, but supports the community and grows the community by us supporting the farmers and the farmers supporting us, where we strive to be creative within what we were given from the local bounty. So we work hard every day. Me and my sous chef Sean, we spend hours, sometimes agonizing and sometimes glorying. Most of the time, glorying in the limitations and the bounty of everything that we're given. Some weeks we have to do without carrots, or we decide to, figure out, if we're losing onions from this source, how else are we going to get onions from this source? Do we order them from California? What are those kinds of boundaries? Working within, we also have a lot of dry goods that come locally. So instead of just going to the basic, rice and potatoes, what are the local grains we can get? Quinoa, milled corn, milled wheat, whole wheat berries. All these things are coming from within our local food shed. So we try to explore those possibilities as well. Whatever we have that is locally available, how are we going to make the best, most delicious food out of that features those ingredients, features the hard work of the farmers, and features our talents as skilled, cooks.
I'm here with Troy Bradley today. Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And I believe you're the president of the Balloon Museum here in Albuquerque?
Balloon Museum Foundation I am the president of, and
Perfect.
and that's where we're meeting. So.
Great. Well, first of all, can you tell me a little bit of the history of, hot air balloons and how we got to where we are now?
Well, hot air ballooning actually goes way back. It's man's first form of flight. The Montgolfier brothers in France flew balloons 120 years before the Wright brothers ever flew airplanes in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So it is a long standing tradition of flight, and it started by, they were paper makers actually in France. And they came up with this idea of that they thought if they filled a bag full of smoke, they saw the smoke going up in their chimney, if they could capture that they'd be able to fly as well.
And how long have you been flying personally?
I've been ballooning my whole life. My grandparents are balloonists. They were some of the first balloonists up in Colorado, and so I grew up doing it. I soloed when I was 14 years old, so 35 years now I've been piloting balloons.
And I believe you also know the youngest pilot
Yes.
in the world.
Yes, my son Bobby Bradley is actually the youngest pilot. He soloed at age 9, which was even younger. So
Wow.
he's a fourth generation pilot in our family, and my daughter's taking lessons as well at age 13 right now. But Bobby had a desire to fly at a much younger age than most people.
How did this all get started in New Mexico, of all places?
New Mexico actually has a great history of the balloons. Really, ballooning, even though it started in 1783, a lot of the ballooning started with the hot air, but then it went into gas balloons, hydrogen or helium-filled balloons, and that was a more practical way for people to fly than the materials they had for hot air balloons. So hot air ballooning really started, again, back in the late 1950s, early 1960s.
How does the process of getting the balloon up in the air, how does that all work?
Once we get out to the field, we unload everything. We hook up what we call the uprights that we put on top of the basket, and then we put the burners on top of that, and then we lay the basket over and attach the envelope, which is the fabric part of the balloon, to the basket. And that's actually, those cables that are hooked up on there, they run from there to load tapes on the balloon all the way to the top of the balloon, and that's what supports the weight. So the fabric that you see supports none of the weight. That's only there to contain the air. So the load is actually carried by these load tapes. So once we've strung the balloon out, then we start to add some air to it. So we have a fan, a little 5 horsepower fan with a prop, blows lots of air into it quickly. Once that's full of cold air, then we add the burners to it. That heat is what makes it rise. We're making the air less dense than the surrounding air, so that's what makes the balloon fly. Then once we're up in the air, that's how we also adjust our altitude by the amount of heat that we put in. So if we're climbing, we'll add more heat. If we want to maintain a level flight, just kind of a little bit less, you're trying to keep that equilibrium. Or even when you're going down, you're still adding some heat, because it's like you don't want to be rushing towards the ground and try to stop it at the very last.
Exactly, okay.
So there is just a fine tuning, and that's where the piloting comes in. And our only control on a balloon is vertical. So up and down is our only control. Then we have to go horizontally wherever the winds take us. And that makes for an adventure in itself, because we could take off from the same spot 100 times and never land in the same place twice.
That is pretty amazing.
Yeah, so it's always an adventure for everyone. Passengers are always enjoying it because it's their first time, and I enjoy it because, like, every flight is unique.
That is very true.
So it's a great way to fly, but we do have enough control vertically to find the different winds at different elevations to steer with to get into a good spot for a landing.
Okay, well, great. Thank you so much for
No,
teaching
you're
me about all of
welcome.
this.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm Sasha Anissa, and this is Eat, Play, Live, and today we're out on a hot air balloon. What an unbelievable ride that was. And as you can see, healthy does not need to be boring.
You're good right there.